think someone could even give him more than $15 million and test to see if the Bulls are willing to keep.
Yeah. Look, here's something that I want to touch on. As I said at the beginning, Rubio getting he got around $14 million a year. And though Rubio...
I don't even think he's that good of a player. He can't score the ball at all. He's a great passer. Yeah. He had I believe, 17 assists last night. But he'll score 6 to 8 points for you, and that's it.
Exactly. I mean, the guy, look, he's a great passer, and he has such a high ceiling, but he hasn't proven anything. I think Jimmy's already proven more in his career, especially as a defensive player. The guy now is set up for a career year, and in the current NBA, the price for players just keeps going up and up. When a guy like Alec Burks is getting $10 million a year, Jimmy Butler is going to get paid, and we're going to have to pay a lot. Thank God the new TV deal will be here soon and the cap room will go up because we're going to need it. I mean, teams out there are definitely going to want him. Definitely Houston. Houston already went after a Texas native in Bosch. They'll look at a guy like Butler who's from the Houston area trying to lure him back home. It's going to be tough. There are lots of teams out there who are looking for a guy like Jimmy. So, yeah, big payday is in order for Jimmy Butler. Okay, so moving on now. The Oklahoma City Thunder. At the beginning of the year, they lose Durant. And we say, middle of the pack. All hope is not lost. And all hope probably still isn't lost, but the loss of Westbrook really hurts. He will be out for at least a month, giving them about 14 more games before Westbrook comes back, then 10 more for Durant, for a total of 24 games, plus their 1-2 record to start the year. It's going to be tough, and though it may be a bit premature, CB, do you think the Thunder are a lost cause?
I do not at all. I think this team will be able to tread water until they can get Russell Westbrook back. But this team with Russell Westbrook and Durant is still a very, very good team. They might fall to about the 6th seed or something like that. But when it comes down to it, if they go 25 to 30 games without those two players, they still have 60 players, and to which they were a top seed for the majority of the season last year until San Antonio ended up winning that crown. But I think this Thunder team is still very, very good. And when they get those two players back, they'll go on a crazy run, and because those guys will be fresh and ready to go, and they'll go on a crazy run and probably get somewhere in the 4 to 5 seed range. They still have Serge Ibaka now. Perry Jones has been playing well. They're out without Reggie Jackson for right now. So once they just start getting those role players back, I think they're going to improve. They might be a little bit above 500 when they get Russell Westbrook back, but they definitely are in some trouble. But I still don't think there's any chance they don't make the playoffs.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you. Look, for right now, they are not going to look pretty. And there are going to be some Thunder fans who are going to overreact, who are going to say this season is over. And it's going to be tough to start the year. But let's remember that Kevin Durant is one of the best players in the NBA right now. Russell Westbrook can score almost at will. Right now it's tough. I mean, you've got Sebastian Telfair, Jeremy Lamb, guys like Perry Jones, Lance Thomas, Steven Adams. Ibaka is the most recognizable guy on this team right now. And it's not a pretty sight. It's going to be really hard. But once everybody comes back, it's not easy to match up with what the Thunder have. Trying to guard Durant and Westbrook is not easy. Serge Ibaka in the post, a defensive beast, and is starting to get better offensively. I think once it comes playoff time, they're going to be a team that's going to fight for a spot in the Western Conference Finals. As always, once again, health has been an issue over the past few years with this Thunder team. Injuries near the playoffs. If I'm a Thunder fan, I'm hoping that this is the end of the injuries for this year. And to be honest, early season injuries are never as bad as late season injuries. So that's a positive. And a silver lining if you want to take one out of there. Now, they obviously will have 24 more games. They've already started off 1-2. And obviously we're not going to go through the whole schedule and predict this. But CB, just a little a ballpark estimate. What do you think their record will be once they are back to full health?
Well, if you ask Slam Magazine, we're still waiting for Sebastian Telfair to take over the world with LeBron James, so they'll do great. But realistically, I think they'll be slightly over 500. I think they still have some good pieces. Serge Ibaka has really emerged into a star the last couple of years, and he gets overshadowed by those two players a lot. And he's certainly a capable player. I think that team will be a little bit over 500, maybe, let's say, in the 15 and 13 range, depending on how many games those two miss. Because if you factor it in, the end of those games are going to include Russell Westbrook as well. So once they get him back, he'll probably push them to a little bit over 500.
Yeah, I'm seeing them probably being either one game under 500, one game over, but definitely in the range where they're not done. I doubt they are going to end up doing too badly. Look, they're playing in a tough Western Conference, and it won't be easy to make up the ground that they lose, but it's tough to see teams like New Orleans and Denver, Utah, Minnesota, the Lakers getting above them. A team like Phoenix, they're good, but I just don't see Oklahoma City falling so far behind at that point. So much time remaining in the season. So for Oklahoma City, hope is not lost, and hopefully they get back to playing at the level we expect. CB, next topic.
Miami's off to a 2-0 start this year. Did we forget about them in the Eastern Conference after they lost LeBron James?
You know what? Here's the thing. And they're actually playing right now. They're up 95-88 against the Raptors. And if they get that win, that is a big, big win for them. I think we may have overlooked them a bit, to be honest. I think that the people who said, oh, this team is no longer a threat at all, that this team is old, overrated, I think we have forgotten who Chris Bosh once was. I think, see, this is the problem with ESPN. This is actually something I want to discuss, because we just had the autoplay. They got to get rid of autoplay. I have, like, even on CBS. But back to the topic. Miami, look, they get this win. They take off Toronto. They take out Washington. Two teams who people thought were going to be Eastern Conference, the new Eastern Conference. The guys who are going to revamp it. But it seems like Miami, behind Chris Bosh, have decided, no, you know what? We will keep our mantle as one of the East elite. The real question is whether or not Wade can stay healthy. I still think this Miami Heat team is a good team. Now, at the end of the day, are they really a threat? I don't feel that they are. I think when you're starting with a guy like Norris Cole and he's your second highest scorer, you're not going to be able to be really successful. Sure, they've got some decent bench players. They've got Chalmers. They've got Danny Granger. They've got Chris Sanderson. But overall, I just don't see this Heat team as a real threat. But for right now, they're going to get their wins. They're going to get theirs because they have some experience in Bosh, Dang, and Wade. But at the end of the day, I just don't feel like Miami is a real threat.
Yeah, I think that they're not really as overlooked as we think. I think a lot of people are putting them in a 5-6 spot, and plus it's only 2 games. I think this team is certainly capable of a 5 or 6 seed in the Week East. I think the fact that Luol Deng will get a lot of touches, I think that he'll get close to 18 points a game back when he was needed as a primary scorer with Derrick Rose injured in Chicago. I think Chris Bosh will go back to his old ways, average 18 to 20 like he did in Toronto. And then I think Dwayne Wade, when we see him, will be effective. But for how long will we see him and how many games is the big question with him, as he's definitely been facing some injury issues with his knees the past couple seasons. And I think Shabazz Napier is someone who's going to start to evolve this year. I think that he's going to have a good season, especially towards the end of the year. So I think this team can certainly be solid, but I don't see them contending with the Bulls or the Cavs. And even Toronto and Washington are on a entirely different level than Miami. I think both those teams, especially Washington, are really going to break out this year.
Yeah, I have to agree. Look, they're going to get wins, and they're going to get the wins against Toronto and Washington. But at the end of the day, I think as time progresses, Washington and Toronto are going to go up, and Miami's going to stay level. I think the Miami we see right now is the Miami you're going to get for the rest of the year. Good. And that's how they played these games. The teams that played, they just haven't performed well. Miami's been good. And I think the other teams are just going to slowly grow while they stay level. And unfortunately, you can't stay level. You have to hit your stride at some point. And I think Miami has hit their stride. I think their stride is this, and I think they're going to maintain that. And their stride, unfortunately, just isn't high enough. Okay, CB, on to the next topic.
All right, San Antonio struggled a little bit in the early going with only a narrow win over Dallas and a loss to Phoenix. Are we slowly coming to the end of the Spurs' success? Is their age starting to get to them?
Yeah. Here's what I have to say. They've got a lot of young players, but they're still older. But I'm not going to write them off because they are the Spurs. Age has never mattered to this San Antonio team, and until they lose in the playoffs, there's no way I'm going to say it's the end of the Spurs. I think that we are going to see points in this year, like we're seeing right now, where San Antonio doesn't perform quite how we expect because there will be that lingering fatigue that comes with age. They're going to need Kawhi Leonard to step up. They're going to need Danny Green to step up. They're going to need all of those young players, Thiago Splitter, to step up. And if they can, I think this team has a great shot to repeat. Once again, they have a Bulls kind of depth, and they work hard like the Bulls. I think both those teams are set up very similarly, and I personally think those two teams could see themselves in the finals. It should be a great series, lots of depth, and that's what they're going to need to rely on. I mean, you look at last year, they didn't play Tim Duncan and Tony Parker. They're two main stars as much as people think. Because of that depth, rotation is key to this team. It's not the end. We'll see points where it looks a little bit like it is, but once again, until the Spurs go down in the playoffs, there's no way I don't think they're one of the better teams in the NBA.
Am I allowed to call my own question blasphemous? Because I think there's no way the Spurs are starting to fall apart. They lost to a good Phoenix team, and they beat a good Dallas team. The West is very strong this year, and even though Phoenix and Dallas might not finish in the top couple, those are two very good teams. And as we very well know, San Antonio never really cared about the regular season anyway. What we saw last year in the finals was some of the best basketball of history, with ball movement and shooting and everything. And I think once we see a full rotation, once they get Thiago Splitter back and Kawhi Leonard starts stepping it up again, I think this team is going to show flashes in the regular season. But once we get to the playoffs, they're going to show the San Antonio Spurs that we saw last year. And I think that this team might not get a top seed. They might not be in the top 3 seeds or something like that. They're going to take it even slower this year in the regular season with Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Monty Ginobili all an extra year older, and probably give those guys even less minutes. But this team brings back the exact same core from last year and adds a good player in Kyle Anderson who can possibly complement that team towards the later part of the year. I think there's no way that this team is going to struggle, especially in the playoffs. I think that they're the best team in the West, no matter what anyone else throws out to there, if San Antonio plays their brand of basketball. So there's no reason for me to expect anything less than a Western Conference final from them. Now, the West is very deep, so I'm not going to guarantee a finals berth, but I think they should definitely be the favorites for that, no matter what their performance is in the regular season, just based on the great basketball we saw when they gave their top players minutes in the playoffs last year.
Yeah, they're like Rocky. You just keep hitting them, but they don't go down. And for them, age doesn't matter. They are like the eternal fountain of youth, and it stems from Pops. And until they lose in the playoffs, they are not done. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into where they'll end up, where other teams will end up right now. Go into a little prediction section. Of course, we are 3 games into the season, but that really doesn't help us make our picks. I mean, sure, we get a little bit of an idea, but definitely not enough of a sample size, 2 games to 3 games per team. And we will start out with the backbone of the playoffs, the divisions. And we're going to start, of course, with the Eastern Conference and the Atlantic. Last year was one of the weaker divisions, and it looks like it could be that way again. Toronto, Boston, Brooklyn, New York, Philadelphia. CB, is Toronto, like many people think, the runaway favorite for this division?
Yes, I don't really think there's that much other than Toronto in this division. Now, I think that Boston is a team that could be a borderline playoff team, as well as many people think Brooklyn and New York. But I don't think either of those teams are going to make the playoffs. Boston could come in at the 8th seed. I think Toronto's by far the best team in that division. I think we're going to see even more from Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan this year. I think this team's going to be a pretty good team and a lock to be a top 4 in the Eastern Conference this year. I think Toronto is way better than anyone else they'll play. in their division, so I think they're one away in the Atlantic.
Yeah, look, I think Brooklyn is actually going to get in there maybe at the 7th or 8th seed because the East is a lot weaker. But when it comes to youth and just the talent that the Raptors have, it's far and away higher